from spring break. You see me wearing my traditional captain gown, my graduation outfit, working with you guys to get your own. So, first assignment back from spring break, is going to be all about statistics. Today we're going to be learning about measures of center. And so, today's our first day looking at data. So, we can collect data on anything. We can collect data on test scores. We can collect data on how students' heights. We can collect data on the weights of the different players in the football team. And so, for example, I have the Atlanta Falcons roster behind me. You may recognize some of those names, like Corey Bierman and some of these guys. Well, these are their weights. You see, they're really huge, 300 pounds, 250, 255. And this is just part of the roster. That's just the first part. It goes on for a while. All these names and all these numbers are data. That's a lot of information. More information, in fact, than one person can consume at one time. And so we use statistics to make that data neater so we can understand it and learn more information from it. So today we're going to be talking about measures of center. And so you learned about some of this stuff in 6th grade. You touched on it a little bit last year. A lot of this will be reviewed. I want to make sure we have the basics done so we can jump right into it on Wednesday and Thursday. So measure of center. I have a bunch of different numbers back here. We use measures of center so that we can find out more information about this data and also figure out what the average of this data is going to be. So the very first box at the top of your note says, why do we use measures of center? We use measures of center to help us describe data and also to learn more about the average. And so we're used to this term average. We're used to calculating an average, but what you're going to learn today and also for the rest of this unit is that there's multiple ways that we can calculate an average. So as always, people, you can always press pause on this video to take your time and copy down the definitions. I'm going to move on. There are 3 measures of center that we use. The next blank says, what are the 3 main measures of center? For this year, we're going to be concerned with these 3. The mean. We know about the mean. The median. We also worked with the median before. And lastly, the mode. M-O-D-E. The mode. So those are our 3 main measures of center that we're going to use today. The mean, the median, and the mode. So let's talk about a couple definitions quickly. So mean. Mean is what we usually use when we calculate our traditional average, where we add up all of our numbers and then divide by the total amount of numbers that we added in the first place. That's our mean. I call it an arithmetic average. I'm going to be using this term observation a lot. An observation is what I'm going to be using to talk about a statistic or a number. So one of the football players weighed 355 pounds. That 355, that's one of my observations. Another football player weighed 215. 215 was another observation. So I said we're going to add all of my observations and then divide by the total number of observations that I had. I'm going to move on to the median. As always, feel free to rewind and press pause if you need to. So for the median, I'm talking about the number or the observation that's directly in the center of your data. If I line my data up from least to greatest, what observation is directly in the middle? That also gives us a good measure of what the center is, what the average is. We'll talk more about why we use median when we get back to class on Wednesday and Thursday. And lastly, the mode. The mode is the most simple measure of center to calculate. It's just the observation that occurs most often. So if you line up that football team and look at their weights and you see that this one number keeps coming up, it just so happens that a bunch of different people on the football team weigh 254 pounds. 254 is your mode. It's the number that comes up most frequently. Okay? So write down an example 1. I give you an example of how you use these measures of center to describe data. So it talks about cereal. So this data set, and you have it on your paper, so I won't blow it up too much. But this data set talks about the amount of calories in a 1 ounce serving of cereal. So imagine those small little cereal boxes that you get from hotels the school may give you for breakfast. How many calories are on one of those cereal boxes? So they give us 9 different statistics here. I'm going to call each one of these 135, 115, 120. Each one is going to be called an observation. So I want to calculate the mean of this data set. If I want to calculate the mean, well, here is the symbol that I want you to use. The mean symbol is going to be X bar. X with a little bar on the top. I'll call that X bar. So X bar is going to be our mean. That's going to be equal to whatever it is when I add up all these numbers. So I want you guys to pick up your calculators, whether that's your cell phone, if you have your calculator at home. I want you to add up 135 plus 115 plus 120. When you add up all those numbers, you're going to get 1,030. And then we're going to divide by the total number of observations that we have. So we have to count up all these observations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to take that 1030 and divide it by 9. And my mean is going to be 114.44 calories. That's my mean, my average. So let's talk about how we can calculate the second statistic, the median. The first thing we have to do, if I want to calculate my median, if you guys remember this from middle school, I have to align my numbers from least to greatest. So the median is going to tell me about the number that's directly in the center. In order to do that, I need to have my numbers lined up from least to greatest. So I have 100, 105, there's 3 of these 110s, let's see. Line those up. 115, 120, 125. Those are all my numbers aligned from least to greatest. And I just want to find the number that's directly in the middle. So I take away the number from the outside. Eventually I'm going to fall on the number that's directly in the middle of all of this. The number that I have left over is 110. That's my median. That's the number that's directly in the middle. Think about it. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 observations to the left of it. It also has 1, 2, 3, 4 observations to the right. This 110 is directly in the middle. That 110 is your median. Lastly, I'll keep that up here. We're going to calculate our mode. Our mode is just going to be the observation that occurs most frequently, or the number that comes up the most in this data set. As you look at it, it's pretty clear to see that 110 comes up 3 times. No other number is repeated 3 times in this data set except 110. So 110 is your mode. Now, I do want to point out, it is possible for you to have more than one mode, or maybe you might not even have any mode at all. So let's say, for example, maybe 120 was repeated 3 times. Then you would have 2 modes, 110 and 120. Or maybe no number was repeated at all. In that case, you don't have any mode at all. Now, like I said, this is a review. Some of this should be pretty easy for you. The last thing I want you to do, complete before next Wednesday's or this Thursday's class, complete the baseball example. At the bottom it says your turn. You have some statistics about home runs. I want you to find me the mean, the median, and the mode for those examples. All right, see you soon.